Diane. Given the passing of David Lynch and the baffling conclusion to the return, I've decided to start over. I'm leaving Twin Peaks for the Pennsylvania town of White Ash. Should be nice to get away from all those trees and little men. Unfortunately, on the way there, heard a bunch of men singing hi-ho, hi-ho, then hit what I can only assume is a series of 7 potholes. I'm about to get out of the car and check. Diane, got out to check. Call AAA. Also, Diane, send an edible arrangement to the Little Person's Anti-Defamation League. Card to read, mistakes were made. Love, Coop. Enjoy the show. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Comic Book Issues. I'm your host, Brian Heinz. So, high fantasy. Humans wielding swords and magic spells. Enormous dragons and fascinating side characters like dwarves and elves. Not the sort of thing you normally associate with working class Americana. Small towns built around industry. The working class forever at odds with the rich. Forbidden love. But what happens if you mix them together? Add in a liberal dash of Twin Peaks weirdness and you've got one of the best comics you've never heard of. Today, we review the first 2 issues of White Ash. The brainchild of writer Charles Stickney and artist Connor Hughes, White Ash is set in a fictional Pennsylvania mining town of the same name. The book has currently published 7 issues and an annual, all paid for via Kickstarter, with an 8th issue currently being worked on. There's also a spin-off book, Galarian, following the elven mother of one of the book's main characters. White Ash continues to garner fans, and there's even a trade paperback collection of the first 4 issues available through retailers like Amazon. The book is a mix of small-town mystery, high fantasy races, political intrigue, and personal ambition at war with the greater good. Think Dynasty meets the early seasons of Riverdale with a healthy dose of Buffy the Vampire Slayer thrown in. Now, I really wanted to concentrate on the first arc of this book, the first 4 issues, but I realized that one of the things I loved about reading this book was getting to experience all the twists and turns for myself. So, I curtailed my ambition, and I'm just going to review the first 2 issues to give you enough of a feel for the book that hopefully you want to see where it goes and finish the story for yourself. This is White Ash, issues 1 and 2. In a bar, a man and woman, Brienne, argue about taking a mining job in the small town of White Ash. As the man leaves for the can, she meets Seth. He goes to talk to Brienne's boyfriend, but apparently he doesn't want to leave, so she and Seth drive off together. They leave behind her boyfriend's corpse stuffed into a toilet. Seth rejects Brienne's flirting, telling her that he has all he needs, even some snacks for the road. White Ash is a small town built around a mountain mining operation, and after 19 years, young Alex Zwerg is going to leave for college. He has a tense goodbye with his father, Gunther, but fortunately Gunther's best friend, Cobb, forces them to give each other a proper farewell. He then says goodbye to his friends Mitch and Caitlin at the local auto shop, although Caitlin, it seems, would like to be more than just friends with Alec. From there, he stops at a mansion to speak to Mr. Alden. He did some landscaping for him and wants to get paid before he leaves. Alden drops some height jokes on Alec before explaining that he won't get his full pay unless he redoes the hedges. With no choice, Alec strips off his shirt and gets to work, catching the eye of a young lady. In the mines, they break for lunch with Gunther staying behind, seeming to notice a stranger.
Wait a minute. You don't work in the mines, but I know you. Siberia, 18 years ago. You're going to try to kill someone, you'd better make sure they're dead, Mr. Paul Rubens. You diabolical bastard.
Alec, finished with his work, grabs a beer but is busted by the young woman from earlier, Mr. Alden's daughter, Lillian. She hands him a check for the money he's owed and confirms her father, Thane, was probably being petty with Alec because he's inconvenienced by having to hire a new yard boy. Alec then tells her the check was meant to be for double the amount she wrote. Well, she goes to write him a new one. Gunther confronts the worker, Seth, who attacks him. They fight until Seth goes snake-eyed and bites Gunther's arm. Seth runs off just as Gunther spies a bomb. Alec, meanwhile, sneaks into Lillian's room and flirts with her, but she turns him down. There's some hurt feelings when they both hear a massive rumbling from the mine. Smoke and injured miners pour from the caves as Mr. Alden directs support efforts. Alec heads into the mine looking for his father, passing Seth. Cobb and others bring Gunther out on a stretcher and he's airlifted to the hospital. Despite a collapsed lung and ruptured spleen, Gunther is stable. Alec confronts Thane and the sheriff. They think a methane pocket erupted, but Alec remembers seeing a stranger wearing his father's lucky hat. He never goes into the mines without it.
At his house, Alec finds his estranged uncle Orman. He's returned to White Ash to help. At breakfast, Orman is cagey about why he left. Gunther would never talk to Alec about it. Alec goes to see Lily, and at first she thinks he's here for more personal reasons, but Alec saw her filming at the accident. She might have caught that strange man on camera. They find him, and Lillian accesses the company's employment files to get Seth's name. They decide they'll confront Seth, but Alec has to sneak her out as she's grounded. Still, someone is watching them. They find a small cabin in the woods reeking of death. Lillian sneaks in and opens the door for Alec. They find Alec's mechanic friend Mitch and Brienne from earlier, both dead. Seth enters, and Lillian pulls out a collapsible bow, but she just misses Seth, who runs away. Where's Alec's weapon? What weapon? To hunt the Brood. What is the Brood?
Well, from 1988 to 1999, the trio of Edge, Christian, and Gangrel formed a vampire group known as the Brood in the then WWF. Briefly joining the Ministry of Darkness, the group fractured, with Edge and Christian forming a tag team and Gangrel forming the New Brood with man Jeff Hardy, although that group fell apart shortly afterwards. The group was famous for their entrance where they would rise out of the floor through a ring of fire, also attacking their opponents during a lights out moment and soaking them in a bloodbath. I hope this answers your questions about the Brood and wasn't horribly misleading for the topic at hand.
Lillian realizes Alec doesn't know anything. Seth attacks again and she fires off 3 arrows that all miss. He pins her against a tree, mentioning that he thought he'd gotten all of her kind, when Alec breaks Lillian's bow over his head. He smells Alec and seems confused when Orman arrives with a warhammer. He scares Seth off. Orman lays into Lillian for dragging Alec into this before telling her to be with her own kind. Alec has had enough and demands an answer. Orman promised Gunther he'd let him explain, but relents. Alec is a dwarf. No, not that kind of dwarf. The Tolkien, D&D kind. Hi-ho, hi-ho? Issue 2 opens with a flashback 3 months ago. A couple getting frisky in a park. When the man follows his woman into a cave, he finds her severed ear. The voice remarks how he's always hungry after hibernation, and a bloody Seth kills the man. In the present, Orman explains that they are mythical dwarves. At least he is. Alec's mother was human, so he's half-dwarf. That thing was one of the Brood.
Well, first introduced in Uncanny X-Men number 155, the Brood are a monstrous race of parasitic aliens, very much keeping in line with the xenomorphs of the Alien movie franchise created by Ridley Scott. The Brood seek to conquer the universe by implanting embryos in their victims and eventually hatch into adult brood, killing the host. Possessed of speed, sharp talons, fangs, and an armored carapace, the Brood are a force to be feared. And while this was probably closer to the topic at hand, it was still horribly misleading.
But when trucks show up, Orman leaves, saying they're violating the pact. Thane and a bunch of his armed guards arrive. They leave just as Alec gets a call to the hospital. His father is in bad shape. He seems to be fighting an infection, and things don't look good. Cop knows Orman told Alec the truth. Most of the miners in White Ash are dwarves, and he gives Alec a VHS tape to watch. On the tape, Gunther explains they came here from their home dimension 1,000 years ago, led by his great-grandfather. Dad is 389. Alec was actually born in 1973. Just as Gunther mentions elves are long-lived, Lillian slips in through a window. She's an elf, and 137 years old.
Sorry, baby. Brian doesn't like them young. Come back when you're 180. I'll be long dead, but there you go.
Gunther further explains they came to Earth to track and trap a 100-foot-long serpent when the tape cuts to a Magnum P.I. episode that Gunther accidentally taped over his explanation. Lillian fills in the rest. Elves and dwarves killed the serpent, but the portal to their home was closed. The half-dead serpent slithered off and in her death throes covered a village in her blood. 9 months later, every woman there gave birth to a new kind of creature. The Brood.
Directed by David Cronenberg. Okay, screw it. They're dragon-human hybrids. Happy? Let's move on.
Over the years, the Brood have returned to White Ash, so the pact was made. The elves protect the town and hunt the Brood, while the dwarves mine the mountains in hopes of finding and reopening the portal home. Lillian came here to find his dad's stash of weapons. Sure enough, a Jersey Alec was told never to touch opens up a secret basement loaded with weapons. Elves make better arrows, but Thane says she's too young to hunt Brood. When Lillian finds Gunther's stash of dwarven mead, she quickly gets tipsy and hits on Alec. He tries to change the subject to some vials. Those are Brood antitoxins. If Gunther is poisoned, he'll need one of those. There's a book in Thane's library that can identify which potion Gunther needs. He takes her home, catsuit still zipped down to nowhere, when Thane opens the door. A shocked Lillian collapses, and before Alec can say anything, Thane stabs him.
I've heard of overprotective dads, but they usually just polish a shotgun in front of their daughter's dates. Maybe he's being nice. Thanks for making sure my drunk daughter got home safely. Here's a free appendectomy. No, those are the first 2 issues of White Ash. where two classic fantasy races have intruded onto our world at odds with a third. I think I've made it clear that I'm a fan of this book, but why? Let's take a closer look at White Ash, issues 1 and 2.
What really works about White Ash is that it doesn't overdo the fantasy aspect. Elves have pointy ears. Dwarves are short with amazing beards. Both live a long time, but neither side is written unrealistically. Thane is a snob. Lillian is trying to rebel against his authority. The dwarves are workaholics with little respect for those outside their way of life. There are no magical glowing weapons, at least not in these 2 issues. No great halls filled with 100-foot-tall statues or cities built on treetops. This is our world. They're just living in it. The Brood, embodied by Seth, work well as an enemy. While the dwarves and elves are close enough to human we can relate to them, the Brood is the other, that inhuman monster, that thing hunting us from which there is no salvation. We're not really sure why Seth is in White Ash, but as long as he is, people are going to die. Alec and Lillian are compelling leads. Lillian is a bit of a stereotype fitting into that I'm rebelling against daddy rich girl trope, though she's rebelling by trying to hunt and kill a reptilian monster. Alec is the man at odds with himself. He wants a better life than toiling in the mines, but can't understand why his father and friends are so against it. Equally attracted to Lillian and put off by her attitude. There are plenty of questions remaining in the next couple of issues for White Ash. What is the Brood here for? What became of the portal to their home realm, and will the dwarves ever be able to find it? How much do the other humans living in town really know about their neighbors? Who is Alec's human mother? Why did Ormond leave, and what was his falling out with Gunther really about? The art by Connor Hughes is one of the book's best selling points. He has his own style that really stands out. There's some great expression work on his characters, truly breathtaking scenery, and he handles the action scenes very well. The heroes are inspiring, the monsters terrifying, and the ladies gorgeous.
Whatever your opinions on White Ash, I hope you agree with me that the art is very enjoyable. The next 2 issues of the first arc will resolve the Brood's reasons for being in White Ash, as well as further develop the dynamic between Lillian and Alec. But since this book is put out at about 1 issue a year, you might be better off reading this in collected form. The first 4 issues are very strong and a great read. I give White Ash, issues 1 and 2, 4 out of 5 stars. I really recommend you check this book out, especially if you're looking for a comic book that escapes the superhero tropes that we normally associate with the genre. Okay, my friends, before we wrap this up, can I ask that you please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and please click the bell for notifications. And while you're at it, why not check out my Patreon page? It's patrons like you who help these videos get made. Until next time, my friends, when I return to playing a level 10 YouTube reviewer with -2 charisma, this is Comic Book Issues, and I'm your host, Brian Heinz.